I was 9 years old when the war ended. VE days, lots of people remember, was May the 8th. My birthday was May the 9th, and all children were given a day off school. So I remember that particularly. But I also remember the feeling of euphoria that on the radio and in the papers, that the war had ended. There'd been rumours for weeks, but it had actually happened.
I remembered the end of the war because luckily the schoolmaster was very interested in everything that happened, and he always kept us well informed if there was particular things. And one of the celebrations in the village was a dance on what was the old hall in Coningsby, and everybody was so happy. And of course, with having the local aerodrome, RAF Coningsby's been there since 1937. And so there was lots of army people as well and Air Force, and it was really a very good evening. I wasn't really old enough to remember a lot about what they drank. I certainly didn't, because I never liked it, thank goodness.
It was a huge celebration, and all the streets that one lived in, there were celebrations that I don't remember particularly what they were, but we were all very happy people. And we were very happy with what Winston Churchill had done at that time as our Prime Minister.
Well, we've heard a lot about street parties for weddings and coronations and things, but they seemed to me to start after the war, when everybody just wanted to celebrate. We had very little food, but people had perhaps stocks of tinned stuff. And of course there were great bakers, the people during the war. It had to be like that to sort of help them through some of the very harsh times of the rationing. And so we had street parties. Often they were in halls, but they were still called street parties, and ours happened to be in a hall. And I remember we got a cup and a pen, or no, it was a pencil. No, it was a pencil. I haven't got them. Oh gosh, I wish I had. And also something else we were given, and that was a letter from the King, George VI, the subject of the King's speech, sent a letter to all children, and there must be many of those throughout the country, I should think, with the crest of arms at the top, and this letter thanking the children and telling them, you know, sort of thanking them for what they'd done and how we'd survived the war.
There was a big abbey in the village, and a lord and lady lived in this abbey, and I always remember they put on a big bonfire. We had a massive big bonfire night, and they put a dance on in the hall as well. I think that was the main thing I remember about celebrations.
And my grandparents, they'd got a farm, so there was this large barn, and they put up all these trestle tables, and all the local children came, and we had quite a party. And that made me realise then that something very important had happened, that the war was over.
I was working on the railway and working away, so we just had word come down the line that we could all have a drink and celebrate. We weren't allowed to drink on duty, not normally, but we came down the line that we could have a drink, and we just sort of all celebrated like that. I was at Skegness at the time.
Particularly for people like my father and our family, Jewish people who had been immigrants, the relief was absolutely enormous, because right from day one, people like my dad were very scared of the possibility of Germany winning the war, and where the hell would they go and how would they get out? The same thing applied then.
The local British Legion arranged an outing for the children. Because I had been still at school when it happened, I was included in this outing, and we went to Skegness for a day. And it poured with rain all day, so we never went anywhere other than a Salvation Army hall where we had to stay. And we'd taken sandwiches because obviously food was still scarce, and we just sort of entertained by playing games and singing.
But the one thing I can remember more than anything are the street lights coming back on again, and the looking around and seeing that the colours were the same when the street lights were on as they were during the daytime, and seeing that grass was green. I'd always thought it went black at night as a kid. I'd always thought it went black. Sounds silly, but it's true. And seeing everything and the colours of the street lights was amazing. My father took us for a walk round to look at them all. I can remember that vividly.